By the time I land, I'll be seeking some insider information on what has brought four teacher unions within the university space together. But let's start first with the finance minister. I'm sure by now you'd have at least read or listened to the things he said yesterday about the current situation and the negotiations with the IMF. If you have, what are, first of all, your thoughts on it?
Well, I think the finance minister is trying hard to now open up a little bit. But this opening up, which should be the normal course of action in terms of preparation to the IMF and how the discussions are proceeding, is laden with some kind of difficulty to appreciate. One, you set up about 11-member committee or task force to negotiate with the IMF. This was announced to us months ago. You are telling us that you have set up about 5-member committee to engage the public. Now, that engagement is likely to be brainwashing of Ghanaians. It's going to be like, this is what we have and this is how you should understand it. It is not the engagement that will solicit divergent views, for which some of the issues you are carrying on paper to engage with the IMF will be varied, some will be enriched, and some new perspectives will come. So long as you have engaged the IMF with a team up to this point, what you are going to do with that 5-member committee is to be providing information the way you want Ghanaians to appreciate it. And that is unacceptable, and it's not in good spirit in terms of stakeholder engagement. The finance minister talks about, and you see, in all these things, we ourselves are trying, that this is about 18th or so IMF engagement we are trying. We have learned lessons in all these engagements. We know the proper process to follow. But it seems to me that when it comes to the governance of the country, the government doesn't seem to appreciate that there is a point in time where serious partisan politics should be shelved and the nation looks at an agenda in an inclusive manner. When you talk about civil society groups that they have been engaging, we don't even know. We don't even have any of the civil society groups come out boldly and say, yes, I am part of this engagement. For us to even know the color of those civil society groups, that indeed some important and serious discussions have been going on. So it seems as if the same small boys that we have been considered over the past years is still at play, and I think it's not healthy for the development. You see, we should just bear in mind that no government will be in power forever. For that matter, whatever decision you are taking today is likely to affect your own party, assuming it wins power again. It's likely to affect the opposition when the opposition wins power. It's going to affect Ghanaian entrepreneurs, businessmen, investors, workers, etc. That is why inclusiveness and clarity on transparency and disclosure are very important in this engagement.
So you need them to be a bit more open, very transparent, but you don't see that.
I'm not sure if you have also seen that. The point I'm making is you didn't want to speak to us Ghanaians. we are taking everything we have had in the past, except for, I think, 2 or 3 days late last week, that the first engagement, accidentally that was Monday, so the first engagement, the finance ministry issued a statement. That is the first professional work that was done under this engagement about 2 or 3 months now. That was the first writing that was done. Apart from that, the point I'm making that you have told us the team that is negotiating with the IMF, what are they negotiating with? Were we aware of the details of those things? Nothing. So now you have gotten to a second leg, and you are telling us that because we have raised the issue of engagement, okay, we are putting up some 5-member committee to engage you. What are they going to engage us with? What you have already presented, what you believe is the right thing you have given to IMF and they are looking at. That is no engagement. Perhaps it's to qualify for information. And don't forget what happened during the so-called engagement under the e-levy. That engagement was to press home what the government felt was the best and not what the people thought should be considered. Perhaps it's the same thing that will happen. And the stock in trade of the government is that the major on blame game. So at the end of the day, they will blame us that, oh, we have engaged you. This is what you have agreed with us. When in reality, we have not agreed on anything. It is information that you are using. If you like it, this is the way things are going. So, and this is how you should understand it. That is information. And if you don't take time, you say to brainwash us to fall in line. And it is critical to appreciate that.
Because he mentioned 2 groups. He mentioned civil society. He also mentioned leadership in parliament. Those are basically our representatives. And he says they've benefited from input from them. So is that not some form of engagement if inputs are being made into whatever program that is being carried to the IMF?
I think that is never sufficient. How many parliamentarians are able to tell you that these are the inputs? Those meetings are closed-door meetings. I'm not sure they were expecting that parliamentarians will come and tell you how bad the situation is. I'm not sure they're expecting that. The civil society groups are formed, and some of them are merely members of government. So we even want to know which civil society groups have been met and have been providing the input so-called. Then we know that something is going on in our interest. All the loans that have been taken for whatever purpose were approved by Parliament. So the engagement should extend beyond Parliament. In fact, I would say the engagement with the Parliament is just the normal, traditional engagement process. It does not add anything to doing something extraordinary. You cannot do this thing without talking with Parliament. But there are other blocks within the country. How many from academia have been brought in to appreciate what is going on? So those are the issues I'm raising.
So the key blocks that are missing, one of it is academia. But are you also suggesting that perhaps the Ghanaian populace should have an idea what our finance minister is presenting to the IMF?
Do you want to say that the IMF program will not affect the market woman? Are you trying to say that the IMF program will not affect the way businesses are organized, what they should expect? Are you trying to say that it's not going to affect the domestic investor? So those are the pictures I'm painting to you. Of course, it does not mean that you should gather all Ghanaians like a political rally and discuss the matter. There is a way of going about it. I was at Senche, and I saw the people who were there, even though the MPP announced that their members were not supposed to be there. But I saw former governors of Bank of Ghana. I saw Dr. Paul Akwa there, you know. I saw a number of prominent people who held very critical positions who appreciate some of these things. So when we are discussing about engagement to reflect public opinion, I think that is what should be done. And again, when it comes to this word, civil society groups, we know the structuring of civil society groups in the country. So we even want to know the names of the civil society groups that are involved in this matter. Then we can put premium on it.
Well, that's on the part of engagement, but already he's giving us some indication. He says they want to fast track the negotiations so that portions of the program that will be agreed with the IMF will be reflected in the 2023 budgets. Good idea?
I don't think so. We need to get a package, and that package will now be approved by Parliament. IMF program is a dedicated special program. Parliament should have a separate session to approve it before the minister will now have a blueprint how he will implement that into the budget. To think that because the budget will be approved by Parliament, therefore it should be part of the budget, I think that it's an attempt to rush the matter that I believe we lost on the way. So the IMF program should take its normal course. Of course, we won't want a fast track process. When that is done, it must go to Parliament because it's an international agreement. It must go to Parliament and receive its separate approval and this thorough discussion. Then, when it is approved, the minister can now integrate it into the budget. That is the way I think it should be.
What happens if it is rushed in the manner which he is proposing? What do we stand to lose? What's the risk?
The risk is that the IMF program may be just another political tool for 2024. The government is more concerned about 2024 than anything. The government has realized that from 2017 to middle of 2019, when they exited the IMF program, they can only give credit to all the achievements they have on record because they were under IMF program. So the thinking now is that, okay, why can't we ensure that we engage the IMF so quickly so that from January 2023 we are implementing an IMF program to see if we can achieve something again after 1 year, that the next year, 2024, we begin to use the benefit for campaign. That is the agenda. And it should be seen as such. And all those engaged in the process, especially Parliament, to see it from that perspective and to be able to look at the program in a manner that will near to the general benefit of the economy.
Then he also talked about, but on that particular score, it's not the first time you are making this suggestion. You're saying that every gain that this government has made, that they've talked about, because they've always talked about the growth in 2017, 2018, and how 2019 looked. You're saying that all that gain was made under IMF. And the IMF may perhaps be what they need to have something to sell to the Ghanaian?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Oh. Then there's the question of what happens to the financial sector. He is giving some assurances about protecting the savings of, and also protecting the financial sector, actually, that when they did the financial sector cleanup, they protected the savings of Ghanaians. So whatever happens now to the domestic sector, financial sector, they will ensure that that is protected. There's been talk about a debt restructuring. Can the minister keep that promise?
Can they look at the Auditor's General's report and see the amount of money from public institutions, including public universities, technical universities, and public corporations whose money have been locked up after we speak today have not been redeemed? Then you can appreciate whether or not the financial sector cleanup. Savings were not being lost. Please, let's take this fact. No credit was being lost before the financial sector cleanup started. It was the financial sector cleanup that created potential savings losses. So if somebody tells you that we saved the savings of the people, it is not true. There was no savings which was being lost. It was the approach to the financial sector cleanup that created loss of savings and investment for Ghanaians. So if that is what is going to be done again, then it means that people's investment will be worse off, because that is what is being promised. It is immoral for the two institutions who are engaged in borrowing. Of course, because of fiscal dominance, Bank of Ghana has done a lot of lending for government and on behalf of government. And Ministry of Finance have also done a lot of borrowing. Now, it is these same institutions and personalities who are saying they are doing debt restructuring. So, you take money from the people, you couldn't pay, you are now coming to tell the people that, okay, I can pay the money in 10 years' time. What happens to the benefit expectation of the investors? And you are possibly going to say that, look, your interest component is what is killing me. So can we take away 1/3 of the interest expectation that we have currently and roll the rest up over a number of years? Definitely is going to affect the domestic financial structure. So how you are going to save? What are you going to save? You are the cost. You borrow money you can't pay, and you are telling me that you are going to save the people, your creditors. How are you going to save them? So that is what this matter needs broader discussion. We shouldn't trivialize it. We shouldn't trivialize it. What will be the cost? How much loss of interest to various financial sector players are we going to incur? Are you aware that there are some institutions, some of them are even government institutions, whose money are still there, some over 100 million. And the same people have in excess of 100 million in various financial institutions. Now, if they are going to have a haircut, are you worsening their plight or you are redeeming them? So I think that is the conversation we should have. So nobody should sit at a press conference and make it as if it's just a simple matter. Don't forget, debt is a contract. There's no portion in that debt contract that at a time, if you're having difficulty, you can come and renegotiate. It is just a convention. People can decide that I will not agree. So let's take it on a broader level. It's not a simple matter.
Prof, do you think government should be managing its expectations to the kind of timelines it's setting for itself? For example, they're talking about an IMF program that will be incorporated into the budget, and then he's talking about 3 years out of the external market. That within 3 years, that means that he's hoping that after 3 years, we'll be able to have easy access to the external market again. Should government be looking at these timelines is setting itself? Are they realistic?
Well, as to whether it will be realistic or not depends on whether we will be upgraded by the credit rating agencies within that period of time to investment grade. That will be the key factor. If we are not upgraded to the investment grade, then it means that the minister is only looking at entry. He doesn't care about the cost of entry. So if that is what they want, and the investing environment thinks that they can still cash on us, and within a short period of time they trigger disturbance, that may happen. But the answer will lie on the effectiveness of reform that will be taking place and the appreciation of the reforms and the result of credit rating with time. That is what is going to determine that. And bear in mind, almost all the 7 pillars that the finance minister talked about can be accommodated by a bad or a worse fiscal policy management. The reason why we are going to work on monetary policy management as one of the cardinal pillars in this IMF engagement is because the fiscal managers, that is the finance minister and his team, have managed the fiscal situation in such a way that it has now given a contagion and toxic effect for the monetary policy management. If the fiscal managers are not interested in reforming to ensure that we accommodate a moderate approach to fiscal management, then it means that they have not learned any lesson yet. All the threats to pro-poor programs are as a result of poor and very bad fiscal management. That matter should be singled out and dealt with seriously. Without that, we will not get anywhere. So for me, that is the hallmark of the whole discussion. If we are ready for fiscal discipline, then we are ready to work with those pillars.
Prof, thank you very much for speaking to us. But before you go, we hear there's something brewing on the campuses that lecturers, administrators, people working at the various tertiary institutions are not happy. What's the problem?
Well, I think the leaders of the unions are the spokespersons for the union. So I cannot speak for the union except to understand what they are expressing. So if you want me to express my understanding of what is going on.
Yes, I would like to hear from you, Prof.
Well, it is only a reflection of the frustration of deeper erosion of their disposable income. They entered into an agreement that fuel prices will be adjusted as part of the benefit on the pay slip of the workers. That seems not to be happening. I believe that is one of the contention. So it's just an expression of frustration as a result of very fast eroding disposable income that people are having as in academic environment. The same thing is happening among government workers in the ministries, nurses, teachers, etc. The same thing is happening. So it is just a frustration.
Prof, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of the day. Professor John Gatsi is Dean Business School, University of Cape Coast, speaking to us. Now, basic thing is